Greetings everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today I'm back on my road to the Conqueror. This time playing in the Tier 5 British battleship, the HMS Iron Duke. This battleship, like its predecessor at Tier 4, has a very similar gun configuration of 2 forward, 1 center, and 2 rear. In fact, the gun layout is almost identical to the Orion. But that's a good thing because it's got the same great arc of fire, especially for that center turret, which means that you don't have to over-angle your ship in order to get it on target, in comparison to, say, the New York or the Texas. One of the key notices that you'll have of this ship over the Orion is that it is a Tier 5 ship, and it has Tier 5 matchmaking. And matchmaker, like RNGesus, Ever the Troll, will probably regularly drop you in to a Tier 6 or Tier 7 matchup. So you can expect to beat bottom tier pretty regularly. As the battle gets underway here, it's New Dawn, it's Domination match mode. I'm div'd up with my buddy Whiskey Ace, and on the opposing team we also have friendly div mates. We're actually talking live on Discord while playing this matchup. Now we do have a standard gentleman's rules applique for any battle where we end up on opposite teams, and that gentleman's rules is basically not to shoot at each other unless we have to or there's nothing else to shoot at, and not to discuss our team positions. We're more than welcome to complain about our teammates and what they're doing, just not where they're doing it and if they're setting up an attack run on somebody or even them. It's domination match mode, and my team has already managed to secure the B cap point and is in the process of securing the C cap point and the A cap point. Now the C cap point is being contested at the moment, though we have pretty much capped out its entirety. So as soon as they can kill whatever's sitting in that cap, we'll have that as well. So this doesn't really bode well for the enemy team at this point. However, the enemy team does manage to kill a ship, and it looks like they managed to kill it down at the C cap point because they've begun to cap that location. But it's not really going to do them much good, as we've managed to secure a second cap up at A. This means that we're now gaining points way faster than they are. Now they did kill something, so they are above us on points, but look how fast we're regaining that. We're making up that ground. That also means that as soon as they lose a ship, they're going to lose those points, and that's going to give us a massive points lead by comparison. And the team that gets the points lead early on usually does end up winning the game. The enemy team is now in the process of capping B, and we don't really have too many people in a position to do anything about it. I'm in somewhat of a position to do something about it, but I'm also getting shot at, and I'm trying to get shots downrange at this enemy battleship here and trying to send him to the bottom so that I can go ahead and I can turn and I can start dealing with problems at the B cap point. But I still have to deal with this battleship downrange. Now you'll notice that I'm firing armor piercing, and this battleship returned fire with high explosive. This is something that you see a lot in British battleship players, is that they'll spam the high explosive, partly because people have made it out to be a high explosive firing battleship because it's a bit OP, where the armor piercing seems to be a bit lackluster. And I really just don't see that to be the case. The armor piercing is actually quite powerful if you fire it and get the right spots to hit. Especially if you're dealing with cruisers, the armor piercing is good. But now, as you can see here, I've got the broadside of this battleship to shoot at. So I get all those shots out there, and I actually do a reasonable amount of damage. Don't manage to citadel them, and that's something that I can say that you're not going to have until you probably get into the higher tier battleships, is you're just not going to citadel another battleship with these guns. But you are going to do consistent damage. Think of it kind of like the Scharnhorst in that aspect. You are going to do consistent armor-piercing damage. The high explosive can be a little hit or miss, if you forgive the pun. Of course, you are going to set fires, but the more fires you set, the more likely it is that they're going to get put out. And unless you can consistently and reliably set additional fires, there's really no point in firing all that high explosive. Now I've got a battleship on the enemy team that I'm taking shots at, and unfortunately, this is one of our friendlies. Well, I say friendlies. He's the div mate on the enemy team. And unfortunately, since I have nothing else to shoot at the moment, and he is broadside onto me, I'm taking shots at him. The biggest complaint I have about the Iron Duke is that it is slow. Specifically, it's slow to turn. It doesn't turn as quickly as I would like it to, and it feels sluggish by comparison to, say, the Texas or the New York. Additionally, it has a fairly short gun range, but that's the same problem that the Texas and the New York have, although the Texas has a bit better of a gun range than the New York does. So you are going to have a limited gun range, you are a slow ship, and in that respect, you really do need to consider using American battleship tactics here. You need to get yourself close enough to engage the enemy before you open fire, and hopefully you're not spotted. Now the captain that I've got on this ship is from the HMS Hood, and so he has a couple of HMS Hood advantages. Specifically, he's got Concealment Expert. He's also got Jack of all trades and a reduction in damage control and damage taken time. So if I get set on fire, I will put that fire out actually pretty quickly by comparison to another captain. And this is the first captain I've ever had that actually has those skills as opposed to others. But with the British battleship line, it just seems to work. Now, in the long run, that is going to pay off massively, especially when you get to the high tiers with those insane repair parties. Right now, down at the low tiers, it's not going to affect you too much, partly because you're going to have a lot of high explosive spam coming your way. The gun turret traverse on this ship is very slow. It's, again, very reminiscent of the Texas and the New York class. So you can expect to try and turn the ship rather than turn your guns. But if you have to turn your guns rather than your ship, you can do it. Managed to get my first kill in the game by finishing off that poor, unfortunate battleship player. Well, again, he was really kind of the only thing I could shoot at considering how close he was, and friendly divmate Whiskey was also shooting at him as well, basically commenting in the Discord, "Sorry buddy, gonna have to shoot at you, otherwise it's gonna look suspicious." Enemy cruiser out in the open and broadside on. Let's see if I can finish him off. A full set of armor piercing there. This does look good. Can I hit him? Do manage to hit him, but only actually managed to shatter all of those shots. Really disappointed by that. Actually, kind of surprising that all of those were shatters as well. Of course, RNGesus, ever the troll. So now I'm looking for targets, and I still have that ship pushing back behind that island. And the Iron Duke, like the Orion and like the Queen Elizabeth, has this nice high gun arc. So you can lob these shells over islands much more effectively than other battleships that have a much flatter trajectory. So while that's going to give you more plunging fire options, you are likely to end up in a situation where you do have shatters and your shells miss. So I'm going to try and get shots back out at that. I think it's a battleship. It might be a Myogi there. When it's in its stock form, it's actually hard to tell if that's a Myogi or a cruiser, just because of the way it's shaped. Almost run myself aground, and again, this ship does not turn very quick, but it's also not a very fast ship, so if you do have time, you can turn your ship to get those guns on bear. Now, I'm being forced to turn my guns and not my ship just because of the positioning of the enemy team, who has, for the most part, taken C and then pushed all the way up to our spawn. Enemy cruiser here is broadside on and managed to punish him, put a lot of shots out there. Secondaries opening up, and the secondaries on these battleships are actually not bad. I don't know how well they will be for secondary builds, but I do have ATF with a captain skill, so the secondaries are going to do pretty reasonable. Now, of course, this cruiser does have torpedoes, and as you can see, they're coming in here. I could have possibly avoided some of these if I had turned earlier. Unfortunately, I didn't, so I ended up eating them. And these torpedoes, it looks like I'm going to eat, even more of them. Finish off that cruiser, but this might be the end of me. I just took a big hit, and I survived. Damage repair is up and running. Force damage control popped immediately, and somehow I survived. Managed to get shots out there, only overpins, but I did a good amount of damage there. Avoid those torpedoes coming in there, and I am very low health. I don't know if I'm going to survive this battle. Look how low HP I am. Shots out there. Managed to citadel this guy, leave him with 0 health right there. Come on, somebody kill him. Get those kills in. Managed to survive the game with a dreadnought, and pretty much no health at the very end there. Confederate and dreadnought, my 2 awards, only 2 kills, 76,000 damage. This was about typical what I could expect with the Iron Duke when I was at least top tier, or not bottom tier. When I was bottom tier, it was a lot harder of a struggle, but that's what you expect with a tier 5. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, follow button, and leave a comment. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me in the channel, and I encourage you to do so as you'll gain additional perks and benefits, and help support my channel and my future gaming endeavors, I encourage you to do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. Any level of support does help, and it certainly adds up. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.